So I've been asked a couple of times to review Stargirl's first season since it ended about 2 weeks ago, and I did actually review the first half of the season, or the first 8 or so episodes after they aired, and to be honest, after those first 8 episodes, I was a little conflicted. I felt that the show had a very solid start, but the few episodes after the beginning that focused on Courtney recruiting the other members of the JSA just weren't as good as those first few. Then around episode 5, I felt it started to pick up, and it kept picking up steam all the way up until episode 8 when I reviewed it. So, even though I was a little uneasy after the first half, before its release the show had been getting insane hype. People saying that it combined the best elements of early Smallville and early Flash, which are top tier DC shows in my opinion, especially the beginning of them. Flash has definitely strayed away from that, but I think the early seasons of Flash are pretty much comic book perfection. And they were saying that it was one of the best comic book shows in years, but after finishing all 13 episodes, even though I felt it had a little bit of an uneasy start, I do kind of agree with that assessment honestly. It starts very low, and a lot of the dialogue set a pretty worrying bar for the rest of the series pretty quickly, but the show definitely evens out and steadies itself. I still don't know if I agree that it's just like Smallville and Flash. It definitely has elements from them for sure, like it has the high school elements that early Smallville had, it has some of the superhero, like lighthearted fun that early Flash had, but I wouldn't say it's as close to them as people make it seem. Stargirl stands on its own, and as far as debut seasons go, I would say that Stargirl establishes itself up there with the first seasons of both Flash and Arrow, which I also think Arrow has a pretty amazing first season. The show does this really unique thing where every episode is named after one or two characters, and a significant portion of that episode will be devoted to that character and fleshing them out. Whether it's a villain, whether it's one of the JSA or whatever, it's around that character. But this is something I really hope the core Arrowverse shows actually look at and decide to adopt something similar, because I thought it really helped the show to stand out. It also meant that its episodes weren't really forgettable, or its episodes didn't just mesh together like a lot of serialized shows like this do. It's pretty easy to remember the specific episodes, because you could just say, oh, it was the Rick episode, or oh, it was the Shining Knight episode, and you immediately remember which one it is. And this will really go a long way, especially when we have twice as many episodes of the show, so there's tons more to remember. In terms of characters though, I definitely feel that they can be hit or miss, at least so far. I think that most of the villains are true standouts of the show, but I personally feel that some of the bigger characters in the show are some of its weak points. Courtney Whitmore, who is Stargirl, is one of those weak points unfortunately. The character definitely finds more of her footing towards the final episodes of the season, but a lot of the early episodes just don't do her character in a way that makes you sympathize or enjoy watching her. Luckily, Season 1 does end her character in a way that is very reminiscent of the comic book hero we all know and love, so hopefully that means we'll get some of the best stuff from her next season. Yolanda is the new Wildcat, and she's actually one of the better characters on the show, I feel like. She has a very Red Hood vibe, where she's not above killing, and while that is definitely something I feel like the other characters are going to fight about, I think this was a very interesting place to take her character. She's one of the members that I never felt bored watching. Rick Tyler is the son of Rex Tyler, and he's the new Arrowman, and he's another highlight in my opinion. While his super serious I need to fight Grundy stance can get a little annoying at times, I still really liked his trajectory throughout the season. I especially love the huge development in the final episode with him letting Solomon Grundy go. It's actually a really cool comparison between Rick and Yolanda, because throughout the season you've gotten the vibe that she wouldn't be one to kill, while Rick seems the complete opposite. But in the final, those character traits are completely reversed, and I'm very intrigued to see where they take this in Season 2, and especially if letting Grundy live will come back to bite Rick. Beth, who is the new Dr. Mid-Nite, is also something I wasn't crazy about. She was the most stereotypical or trope-filled character I felt, because every DC show has that annoying wacky tech person who is very nerdy and just... they're pretty much like, their personality is dialed to 10 compared to every other character in the show, and that's exactly what Beth is. She can be grouped in with Cisco and Wynn and Curtis and Felicity, and while almost everything else about the show is very unique, Beth is the one part that very much still feels like your traditional DCTV show character, because there were some things over the season that filled me with hope, but I don't know, I'm not convinced on her character just yet. I'll have to wait till next season to see. I thought that both Pat Dugan and Barbara Whitmore were great. Shining Knight was fantastic. I don't think there was a single villain that I wasn't crazy about. I guess maybe the Fiddler, but that's only because she accomplished literally nothing and then died a pretty pathetic death, but every other villain like Icicle, Brainwave, all of them were pretty damn good. In terms of visuals, this is definitely more in line with how the DC Universe shows look than how the CW shows look. Like in terms of how beautiful the sets and effects were, I was constantly reminded of Swamp Thing or Doom Patrol. I'm not huge on Swamp Thing, but I think the visuals and effects in that show were fantastic. I am a little worried about how the move to CW will affect the visuals for Season 2, because even though Jeff Johns will still likely be involved, I think it's guaranteed we'll see a noticeable decrease in budget. It might still look a good bit better than the usual CW shows, but I think we'll still definitely notice quite a big change between seasons. Hopefully that means the writing will still be up there though. Everything to do with the original JSA was quite fantastic, and with the revelation at the end of the final, I think it's likely that as the seasons go on, we'll start to see many more members of the OG JSA show up, that they've been alive, they've been hiding, or something like that, which will be fantastic. That's something I'm really ready to see. I'm also so ready for the crossovers between the other shows at some point, due to seeing the JSA team up with the Arrowverse heroes. And also, I want to shout out the costumes, because they all look amazing, and they're definitely some of the best comic book costumes we've had in recent memory. But yeah, while it has a somewhat slow start, this was still a very welcome addition to the DCTV universe. I was very happy with how the overall season turned out, and I cannot wait for Season 2. It's also pretty crazy that this will likely be the only new DCTV show to debut this year. By that I mean it's the only one that will have had a first season. But anyway, what did you think of Stargirl's first season? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know down below, and as always, please remember to subscribe so we can hit 500, and like and share and all of that, and I hope you have an amazing day.